Let's begin this afternoon, however, from the courts, because the Supreme Court has dismissed an application to pronounce as unconstitutional Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu's action of counting himself for the purpose of forming a quorum on taking a decision in the House. The court President Justice Jones Doche ruled that the Deputy Speaker of Parliament participated in the voting without any illegal basis. Now, the private legal practitioner we know, also law lecturer Justice Abdullahi, subsequent to the November 30 clash between the Speaker, Bagbing, and his first deputy after the latter overturned an earlier vote of the House rejecting government's 2022 budget, invited the Supreme Court to pronounce as unconstitutional the Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu's action of counting himself for the purposes of forming the quorum. On this, he argued in the context of Articles 102, 104 of the 1992 Constitution that the Deputy Speaker was not permitted to count himself for the purposes of passing the 2022 budget. Well, the five-member panel of justices at the Supreme Court have ruled that the MP for Bekwai exercised his right constitutionally. The Attorney General Godfrey Adame has been speaking to pressmen after proceedings today in Parliament. Let's hear what he's been telling them.
And straightforward. I perceive the issues are very simple and straightforward because nowhere in the Constitution has any statement been made that whenever a deputy speaker presides, he uses his right to vote. And indeed, as indicated in submissions filed in court, all the circumstances under which a member of parliament uses his right to vote. Actually, it is felt as Article 104 itself. And so it is really one of controversy. It's also very important to know that in all jurisdictions around the world, whenever the Speaker of Parliament or a Deputy Speaker of Parliament is a member of Parliament, he always has the right to vote. In England, it's the same. In America, it's the same. In Australia, Canada, everywhere is the same. In Kenya, even in Africa, Kenya, South Africa is also the same. Whenever the Speaker of Parliament or Deputy Speaker of Parliament is an MP, he never loses the right to vote. The right to vote is actually linked to the right to represent his constituency. Are we saying that on account of the person being a Deputy Speaker, he loses the right to represent his people when the major issue of national importance has arisen? I think the reason by the Supreme Court clearly the sound is in accord with practice in other jurisdictions around the world, and also clearly borne out by the letter and spirit.
And this applies to forming a quorum for business as well?
Yes, because indeed the Constitution was quite clear. Whenever it seeks to exclude a member presiding, it says so clearly. So you see that for the permission for business, ordinary business in Parliament, it says the exception of the person presiding. But such exception is not made in the case of forum for decision making. So when it comes to forum for decision making, the member presiding, if is a member of Parliament, clearly will be included.
I mean, in terms of subsequent parliamentary business,
those things clearly were declared and were really inspired by mischief. Because all those decision makers should have known that the parties and other traditions, whenever the person presiding is a member of Parliament, that person is not freedom from exercising his right to vote exists. So I think those things of Parliament are really unwarranted, and we really hope that they will not be repeated again. The Supreme Court has brought clarity on the matter and should guide the nation going forward.
Attorney General Godfrey Adame there. Well, the plaintiff in this matter, Justice Abdullahi, who is also a private legal practitioner, who initiated this action, said he's surprised by the court ruling.
I'm not surprised because I'm a lawyer. I know that going to court, there are only two outcomes. It's not like a football game where there'll be a draw. It would either be a win or a lose. But in this case, I think there's actually no one lost because I think the Constitution wins, the people of Ghana win, and this is the best decision that I think we should have had. It puts clarity on the law, despite the fact that some of the reliefs that I was seeking were not obtained. But there is a far-reaching decision that has been made by the Supreme Court today to the extent of striking out portions of the standing orders. And this is very good for all of us. It puts clarity on the rules of Parliament, and indeed, it makes all of us citizens. And I think I would probably use this opportunity to invite all of us to be participants in the democratic credentials of this country. We all have to play our roles to ensure that we get the best outcomes of our constitution. This is just one of the things that we'll be doing going forward to ensure that the difficult decisions in bringing the sort of cases to the Supreme Court for clarity to be put on some of the issues that borders on sometimes illegality are all put to the past. This is what we stand for, and this is what I am willing to I'm willing to do as a citizen of this country to ensure that our children and indeed our grandchildren live a better life in this country.
So that was the plaintiff in the matter, Justice Abdullahi. My colleague, Lord Edwasare, sat through proceedings early today. He's joining us for a conversation. Lord, thank you for joining us. So does this decision mean that the 2022 budget that was approved sometime last year, that exercise was constitutional and legal?
Precisely so, Kamala. So essentially, what the 7-member panel of justices ruled was that the case, especially regarding the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Joseph Osei-Owusu, exercised his rights constitutionally. Now, you recall that the minority in Parliament were citing the Standing Order 1093, which says a Deputy Speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original votes while presiding. But the justices ruled and struck out this provision because it said it wasn't backed by the Constitution. The Constitution only makes provision for the Speaker of Parliament in this regard and not the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. But I must add that this ruling, as far as the quorum is concerned, is only for decision making. For a general quorum which requires all the members to be present, the Deputy Speaker doesn't need to hold himself and count himself as such. Only where the quorum for decision making, according to Article 1041, that is where he is supposed to count himself and then he can vote. Now, Article 1041 states that, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. You recall that when the budget was rejected, half of the minority in Parliament left the Parliament House, and that contributed to half of the members in Parliament. And in that regard, according to the Constitution, the Deputy Speaker had the constitutional right to reverse it. And so it stands that the passage of the budget 2022 stands.
Okay. Thank you, Lord Edwasare, my colleague who sat through proceedings